Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today I want to talk about everything that's happened since the most recent tragedies here in the United States. How our leaders are getting it wrong, and how, if anything, they're just encouraging more of the same. So let's talk about it. Okay, so the first problem that I see is that the people that we've put in charge of enforcing rule of law are focusing on the wrong thing, and in some instances almost giving a pass to the thing that actually committed the crime. What I mean by that is, when you take somebody who commits a crime, and instead of focusing on the person that committed a crime, you start focusing on the tool, or you start focusing on their circumstances, you almost give them a free pass for what they did, because it wasn't their fault. It was the tool that they used that made them do it. It was their circumstances that made them do it. It wasn't the person that actually decided, you know what, I'm going to get up today. I'm going to put on the proper attire or the proper equipment. I'm going to go out premeditated and I'm going to commit this crime. That person did it, and that person used those tools, and they used their circumstances, and they put everything together, and they committed the crime. And if you take away from that fact alone and start focusing on any other fact, you are doing a disservice to those people who have suffered under this, because you're not focusing on the right thing. Focusing on the tool or focusing on the circumstances is the incorrect way to look at it. We need to focus on the person, and that person needs to be punished for what they did. And further people who expect to do these things should know that they're going to receive the exact same punishment as well. By taking anything away from the people that actually did it and focusing anywhere else, you're focusing in the wrong area. You got to figure out why this person decided to do it. What was in their specific head? Now, here's the thing. Our government tends to treat us like children. I have an analogy for you. When they look at these people who commit these crimes, they treat it very much like your parents might have treated you if you had a bad set of friends. Okay, they look at the person who committed the crime and they say, you know what? He did this because of A, B, and C. Not because he took it under his own power to actually commit these crimes, but your parents might have seen you with your friends and their bad influence, and maybe they caught their kid stealing a car. A cop brought them home, whatever the case is. They got to go pick up their 16-year-old from jail because they did something stupid. And instead of picking them up and saying, you're grounded for the rest of your life because you did this, they say, I don't want you hanging around those group of people anymore, because if it wasn't for you hanging around those group of people, this wouldn't have happened. So instead of focusing on what you did, they're saying you just can't hang around those group of people anymore because that bad influence is why you did this. Not acknowledging the fact that you went along with it willingly on your own, and you did the problem that got you thrown in jail that your parents had to pick you up from. So it's the same thing. The people who we've put in charge of our laws are treating us like children and saying, well, what made him do this? And I'm not talking about that we shouldn't find out exactly what the influences were, but by mainly focusing on the tools and other things like that, again, you're not focusing on the person, are you? You're focusing elsewhere. And again, you're kind of giving him a free pass, because if it wasn't for those influences, he wouldn't have done it, which we all know is BS. He's responsible for himself. Now, while I personally think that violent video games, violent movies, violent music, and even a crappy home life are really, really poor excuses for somebody to actually use those as motivation to go and commit these crimes, because I know plenty of people who've grown up in crappy neighborhoods, plenty of people who've grown up in diversity, people who've had their parents that, did things to them that no child should ever have to go through, people that have lived horrific lives, people that have seen violence firsthand, and they still turn out to be doctors, lawyers, successful people in society. I think we all make our choices, and if you made the wrong choices, you made the wrong choices. That was on you. I still do think that there are certain things that can affect somebody's cognitive ability, reasoning, thought process, that can affect somebody deep within, that might actually make them do something like this where it is beyond their grasp. And that is medication. I think a lot of people are forgetting to talk about the pharmaceuticals here. Now, it might not be the case in every one of these instances, but in a lot of these instances, there are pharmaceuticals involved. Now, I can actually talk about this topic because I've had a problem with this in the past. When I was 17 years old, excuse me, When I was 17 years old, I was involved in a horrific car accident with me and a couple of my friends. And I've never talked about this publicly. We were going way too fast around a corner. We ended up flipping off the side of a hill, and our car spun over and over as it went down. A tree came through. It smashed my friend's face. Basically, he's a tree stump that came through, smashed his face, ripped his face completely off. Had another friend had his legs skewered. He was stuck in the car. I was a complete mess, but I was able to get out of the car. I walked completely bloody and I climbed this dirt hill. You know, I was a mess. I had glass stuck in me. I was bleeding from everywhere. And I ran and ran and ran. I was 17 years old. Found a phone, called 911, and then I called my parents. I don't know why. I was just 17. You know, call your parents, right? After that, I had PTSD. I couldn't get in a vehicle anymore. I had a hard time. I went to therapy, and all just to kind of get back to normal life. The things that I saw, like missing eyeballs, and I had to sweep teeth out of the back of his throat, and you know, he had his skull was cracked. Just imagine the most horrific thing that a 17-year-old could see, and that's what I saw, and I had a hard time with it. So they put me on medication, and this is, you know, a long time ago, right? They put me on one medication, that medication didn't work. So instead of taking me off that medication, they put on another one. And then when they wanted to deal with the anxiety that I was having on top of some of the depression, they added another one. Next thing you know, I'm on like 3 or 4 different medications at the time, and I was a mess. I was a complete mess. I mean, I'm telling you, I could not figure out who I was. I couldn't figure out where I was. I remember having hallucinations. I was violent towards my family. I mean, it was terrible, terrible. One day I'm out on the street and I'm literally out on the sidewalk crying in front of my house. You know, 18 years old at this point and completely useless to society. I said, I'm not taking anything anymore. Done, period. That's it. No, nothing. And I locked myself in my room, and that was my decision. Okay, the doctors wanted to go ahead and try something else. But I said, you know what? No, I'm going to go ahead and get off of this, period. And so I stayed in my own room for weeks at a time, and I just listened to music, and I rocked back and forth on a chair because it helped with my stress. When I got off that medication, I never looked back. I've never felt better. Everything was normal again. Medication can destroy a person, especially when they are young and they are somebody who's still growing. You know, your body chemistry is still changing, and you start feeding these people medications. I can tell you from firsthand experience, it takes away who you are, and it takes away who you are and it replaces it with somebody else. And I think that that's something that needs to be examined big time, because I'm telling you right now, after I stopped that medication, my life has never been better ever since. It's been perfect. It was the medication that was killing me more than anything else. Now, another thing I've noticed, if you're still with me in this video, because I know this video might be going a little bit long, but another thing I've noticed is that they're demonizing everybody who has a mental condition. Everybody who has a mental condition of any kind, you're on the chopping block as somehow being a bad or evil person. You might have stress. You might have depression. You might have anxiety. You might have whatever condition that you might have, and you're a good person. You're a productive person. You get up every day. You know right and wrong. As a matter of fact, I know a lot of people who suffer from anxiety and depression who would easily lay down their lives to protect other people. They carry every single day. They are good people. They still know the difference between right and wrong, but they suffer. They suffer inside from these mental conditions, and we have to make sure that we are not labeling all of these people as bad people just because they have that condition. Those conditions don't make you bad people. Okay, if you're depressed out there right now and you own a firearm, it doesn't mean you're going to go out there and you're going to hurt somebody. If you have anxiety right now and you own firearms, that doesn't mean you're, have a propensity for violence. It just means that you're dealing with your own depression, your own anxiety, and that's something that you need to deal with. If you feel like you might be going, somebody who's going to be violent, then, as a good person who understands the difference between right and wrong, then you have to address things accordingly. But I think the majority of the people that are out there, 99.9% of people in this public, are good, law-abiding people who know the difference between right and wrong, whether they suffer from some type of mental disorder or not. Now, lastly, it obviously comes down to the tool, right? This is what they're going to be focusing on the most. This fits the anti-gunners agenda like a glove, okay? It is absolutely perfect in accomplishing their overall goal, which is disarming us. It is incredible that that is even considered an option. It's sort of like saying that there was a car accident, a horrific car accident, where 30 people lost their life in this car accident. So we're going to go ahead and ban seatbelts. We're going to go ahead and take away seatbelts because this guy right here caused this car accident, and unfortunately 30 people are gone now because this guy used a car. So we're going to go ahead and take away your ability to protect yourself now by taking away seatbelts. That's the way that I view this argument. So what you're saying is a crazy person, and what I mean by crazy is anybody who's willing to take somebody else's life, to me, if you ask me, is crazy. But you taking this person who is willing to take other people's lives, and your solution is to make me more vulnerable to that. That's your answer to the problem. Your answer to the problem is, let's go ahead and make sure that I can't protect myself against these types of people when we know that they exist, because here they are, right? So let's go ahead and take away the ability that I have to protect not only myself and my family and my friends, but the general public. Let's take away that ability because somebody committed a crime with one. That makes pretty much no sense whatsoever. Okay, yes, these things can be used as a tool to commit crimes, but they can also be used as a tool to save lives. And if you do not focus on the fact that these can be used as a tool to save lives, then you're doing a disservice to the tool itself. That's why when law enforcement shows up, they show up with these tools, because these tools are used to help. They are used to serve, and they are used to stop people who do these things. And if you take away my ability and my neighbor's ability to stop these people before the 5 or 6 or 10 minutes is up, by the time the law enforcement actually gets there, then instead of saving lives, you're actually making it worse. You are not going to be saving lives if you're going to make people dependent on law enforcement only. Okay, we need the ability to train. We need the ability to assess any wounds or any type of action that might need to be taken by the first responders. And when I say first responders, I don't mean law enforcement. You are the first responder. The people that are there, those people that you saw in those images that are trying to apply makeshift tourniquets, that are applying pressure to wounds, those were the first responders. The law enforcement that showed up 4 or 5 minutes later, those are the second responders. So we need people who are actually there when it happens to be the first responder and to be able to do what's necessary to make sure that it stops and that the people that are affected are treated. If you focus on anything else, like taking away the tools, taking away the safety, focusing on this or that, or stopping video games or movies or anything else, then you're doing a disservice to the actual problem. We need to make sure that people can defend themselves from the evil that exists, and we need to make sure that they can defend themselves from the evil that's going to continue to exist. 100 years from now, stuff like this will still happen. As long as rocks exist and as long as people can throw them, this has been happening. And as long as rocks and any other heavy object is available to people in the future, this will continue to happen. This is human nature, and we have to battle the people who have decided that their human nature is to take other people's lives. That's how we need to treat this. We need to treat this by giving responsibility to people who are good and law-abiding people, and when they see an act, they can treat it, they can handle it as it happens. Anyway, I know it's a long video, guys, but obviously, with everything that's happened, I have a lot of venting to do. And I know in most cases I'm preaching to the choir, but this has got to stop. The way that we respond to these things is completely off base. We need to make sure that we focus on the real problem, which is the person that committed the crime. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.